Okay, so let's get started. Name, rank, and serial number.
I'm Aubrey Randle. Purple belt. I've been training in Galveston for over 13 years.
Nice. Birthday?
June 3rd, 82.
And where? Here? Or?
Yes, born and raised here in Galveston.
So you're a BOI too?
Yes, I haven't lived anywhere else. Yeah.
Wow, you are a rare breed. An endangered species.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth.
And what was the birth date again?
6/3/82. So June 3rd, 1982.
Okay, so that would make you a Gemini?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Gemini.
Yeah, cool. And so you've been doing it for 13 years. And how long have you had the academy?
Well, it'll be 2 years in October.
Okay.
We started a couple years back, October, yeah. So it'll be 2 years coming up, getting our 2-year anniversary. And it's flown by. Like, honestly, it felt like yesterday.
Yeah. And as a purple belt, and you're leading, instructing, and your partner doing it, that's like early. Not unusually early. I've seen it done.
Yes.
But I've seen it done more in the past than I see in the present.
That is true. I can't really, I don't want to really, a lot of Jiu Jitsu is becoming more modernized, where back in the day where there was only 2 belts, there was only white belts and blue belts. So you stayed one belt forever. But since it's become more Americanized, they added more belts. And
that's an American thing?
Yes. Actually,
I didn't know that.
That and stripes are an American thing. Most other
stripes, yeah, makes sense.
Yes, because we want to, yes, Americans, we want to feel like we're progressing in the interim. But with Jiu Jitsu, as you know, it's time on the mats, and some people go faster, some people go slower. But it's the stripes allow students to feel like they're progressing in the interim.
Okay. So it's almost like to keep the students engaged in a way, like they're progressing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because they are progressing within that level. And to let them know that they are progressing within that level.
Now, did it start with adults? Because I know kids are like a huge market in martial arts in general.
Yes.
And was it more did it start with kids and continue into adults, or do you know?
That's a good question. As far as the fundamentals of Jiu-Jitsu, when it first hit America, it was all adults, I'm sure. It was like backyard clubs. There was a lot of people just like showing up, and it was new and unheard of. Everybody back then, when Jiu-Jitsu first hit America, American kickboxing was huge.
Yeah.
Muay Thai started to become popular. No one cared or even thought about grappling. They were like, go to the ground for what?
Well, in UFC, the very first UFC.
Yes.
I mean, what's his name?
Royce Gracie.
Royce Gracie came in his full gi, and everyone laughed.
Everyone did. And
I remember.
Yeah.
Because I was with the Machados, and they said, our cousin's going to go fight. So we all went over there and watched.
And the world was shocked. And then to see where it started and where it is now, I mean...
Oh, mainstream.
Exactly. I have kids in the class that are not even 15 and have already been training for almost 10 years,
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is to think about where they'll be in another 5 years,
Whew. Yeah, you're right. When it first came out, because that was in 90, I think the first UFC was 93 or 4?
Yeah.
Right around that time.
93.
Because it was put on by WOW Productions. And that's where Dog Brothers got our fame, or not our fame, our notoriety.
Okay.
Because we knew, I forget the guy's name, but he ran WOW Productions. They put it on, and they had, by the time we got a hold of the guy, they had like 3 up to that point.
Yeah.
And Royce was in the first 3 or 4, and everyone, by the 4th one, I think he won, but that was it, because people were onto him.
People started figuring it out.
Yeah. And, they weren't letting him get close. And he had to go against this one guy who was gigantic. I mean, Royce was maybe 180, maybe, and this other guy was like 230, and built like Ken Shamrock at the time.
Yes.
And just, you're not closing.
No, you're not cutting that distance.
Yeah, and Royce finally got him, but it was like round 5 or 3 or it was not the first round, because if you remember the first ones, he was ditching people.
People had no idea. They were letting them grab him. They were they were running to them.
Yeah.
You know, the things, I always look back at some of the stuff I did as a white belt, you know, and then I look back at tapes now and it's like, man, I really did that. I really should think that worked. You know?
No, that's, so, but now the instruction that you're doing, you started 13 years ago, right? So now, and we just kind of went through the history of belts, a la America.
So the kids, they have a more extensive belt system because, you know, you got to keep kids entertained. They got to be motivated. And I love the way the belt system is. It gives them a chance to grow within the belt and still progress. There's technically three belts for each color and 4 stripes with each. And
3 belts for each color?
Yes.
Explain that.
So white belts, white belt is just the white belt. Then you'll get your next belt, which will be gray belt. It'll be a gray white belt. Then you get a solid gray. Then you get a solid black. And it's for all the other colors. So next is yellow. So you'll get a yellow white. Then you'll get a solid yellow. Then you get a solid black. A solid yellow with black. Then you get orange with white. Orange and black.
Damn.
And then there's green. And children can't get their blue belt until they're at least 16.
16?
Yes. You cannot get a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu until you're 16.
Okay.
Yes. Because, I love that. I mean, because, you know, you walk around, you see a 5-year-old, with a 7-year-old with a black belt, and it's like...
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you know. But, hey... this is a very mature sport. I love how you have to be mentally mature to progress in certain levels because it's a sport of the mind, you know, and that's what I really like about it. It forces you to think. You have to be technically more sound than your opponent, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can't even get your black belt until you're 18.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's universal here in
yes,
okay, Brazil?
That is universally wide. I mean, that is.
Well, as long as it's, yeah, okay, I'm going to make sure you call it out. As long as it's enforced across the board, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen some martial art, I want to say academies, institutions, have a belt, like a bazillion belts, which almost overboard.
It is, because like you said, the uniformity of it, trying to make everyone be on the same page. How can you have like what's a purple blue belt? You know,
yeah.
Like, and I've seen them. I've seen
purple blue belt.
Yeah, it's half purple, half blue.
Okay.
I've seen white belts like that. But hey, every school is different. Every school has their own philosophy, and that's one of the biggest things I love about jiu-jitsu itself. I mean, I honestly equate jiu-jitsu sometimes like old school kung fu. You know, this was the school of the dragon. This was the school of the tiger. If you go to different schools are guard poolers. Some schools are top game. Some daily hiva. You know, every school has their own
thing,
and then every individual person takes it from there in their own individually style. It's like that's what I love about jiu-jitsu is the diversity.
There, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, before you took over or owned this, you were a student, right?
I was a student status instructor. Yeah, I've been instructing for about 10 years. In jiu-jitsu, teaching classes. And
did you start teaching as a blue belt?
Technically, no. I did start teaching some classes as a white belt, like real intermediate classes. But I was doing 20 hours a week in jiu-jitsu. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I dedicated a lot of my time. I started working for the gym almost immediately after starting. So my job was to be here. So yeah.
Made it easier.
Put time on the mats, and but no, I officially started teaching. Yes, at blue belt.
So, what would you say is different now that you are? I mean, you still teach, but now you're an owner. What's different?
Wow, it was a lot more than I thought. Because before, being a student was all about myself. You know, now I'm still a student, but I'm a student for my students. You know, I go out to learn so I can make sure that they can grow. Because it's like I look at your sensei is the springboard that projects you higher. So the higher your springboard, the higher your students will go. So the more, and a saying we have here at Island Grappling is if your partner gets better, you will get better, and then we will all get better together. So that I truly believe that. So that's been the biggest difference. I've changed my mindset on how I train, so that I am training to truly be able to bring it back and progress my students.
Do you find yourself training differently as well? I mean, your mindset's changed, but what do you find yourself? What do you find yourself in the way you train differently?
So that's actually great. I'm truly trying to discover that part myself. I went from being a very highly competitor to now a coach and an owner. So that's actually kind of changed my mindset too. You know, it's switching those caps because I still want to compete. I still love coaching, you know, so I've been working really diligently to find that balance, because that's, and again, if there's, talking to Drew has been great about helping me find that balance. So it's switching the caps. Some days, that's why I love going to ACS, because those days I can truly be a student.
You can be a student.
Yes.
Yeah, no pressure.
There's no pressure. Then here I can coach, you know, so that's how I've been kind of working my mindset. So when I'm somewhere else, it's business.
So it's almost, you have to have two, well, you have to, but you tend to have, you have two lives or two personalities.
Yeah, you do, because to teach is to learn as well. And that's one of the things me and Mike have always said. I think our level has gotten towards that because we teach so much, because we have to sit and think what are the mechanics of this move? Because if you don't understand it, how could you teach
Explain it to someone else,
exactly.
Right?
So that's what I really...
Now, when, as an owner and running this, you're going to have different people coming to the door, young, old, men, women, different strokes, all sorts of things.
Yes.
Starting with kids, how do you teach kids versus how do you teach, you know, adults? What's different about that? You mentioned belts as being one of them, and I have to ask, how much of that actually is for the kids, and how much is that for the kids' parents?
Yeah, that's the unspoken rule about it. We're not supposed to say that on camera, man. But
no. My silence has a price.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, it is a lot to do, because the kids they honestly, at a kid stage, it's all about fun and learning. Kids like to learn too, as long as it's fun learning. So with that, you just have to structure it in a way where it doesn't feel like class, you know, or like school.
Like school,
yes. You know, so
because school's boring.
Exactly.
Even though, as an adult, I wish you'd spent more time in school.
Oh God, how many times have we said that?
Yeah.
So with the kids, you have to. Everything has to be worded differently, you know. So,
versus adults.
Yes, because I could be straight direct, be like, all right, hey, look, I want you to run 50 laps to work on your cardio.
Or like you showed me the lasso attack.
Exactly.
Or
I can be straightforward with that. With a kid, there has to be some imagination. There has to be some type of... So instead of telling them they're going to run 50 laps, be like, all right, guys, first one to make it to 50, you know, or let's see who can make it to 50 faster. Then you just got to
make it a game.
Yes. And then I find that the kids are more engaged in it. They're more adept to do it, and they'll learn because they're taking it in. But it's all in delivery. It's delivery.
And then with kids, when I say kids, I'm thinking like 15 and below. Now, roughly, is that
yes.
fair?
We our kids' class is 7 to 13, and then we have a teens
13.
class from 13 to 18 or something. Then they can go. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some kids grow.
Oh, dude, we had a
faster than
13-year-old who was taller than me, so
Huh.
you know.
Yeah, we had a few of those there at Drew's. I'm like, damn, you're how old?
Yeah.
15, and you're like, I'm doing this,
Yeah,
and I'm tall.
Yeah, that's scary if you have to look up to him.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa. So, okay, within that bracket, let's say like the up to 13-year-old is 13 and down, that bracket. You have boys and girls.
Uh-huh.
How do boys and girls accept teaching? Do you teach them differently? Do you see them absorb things in a different way?
So no, not from boys to girls. Like I don't see the difference in between that, but there are differences in between each individual kid. Some kids have to be pushed. Some kids need to be pulled. Now, when I say pull, I don't mean cuddling, coddling, and enabling them to get along. There has to be a different approach. Like We have one girl in our class, Alex. She's phenomenal. I can't wait to see her in 5 years in the sport. She's a kid who definitely can be pushed. I can coach her, and and I can be more direct with her.
She's coachable.
She's coachable. Then I have another little girl who is very good, talented, but my direct with her has to be a little softer. I have to word it a little differently in order for her to grasp it. So one of the biggest things I love about coaching is finding that way. Everyone can be taught. It's just finding what gets to them. You may have kids come in here with ADHD. They're going to learn a little differently than kids who are, book driven or, there's.
How do you, like, say you have a kid, a boy coming in who is diagnosed ADHD.
Yeah.
How do you approach that through Jiu Jitsu?
Well, a lot of kids, they want attention. So I have a little boy in my class. It's a perfect example. I have him demonstrate a lot. So they're engaged. Yes. Whether he gets the technique completely right or not, I still have him engaged in doing it, and then it makes him think about doing it, and then he starts doing it correctly. Because he now knows that, I'll have to show this. So that's how I get him to focus in on it. Because I'm like, hey, all right, look, I'm going to have you show this in a minute, so let's get into some.
Get on it.
Yeah. So then he'll okay, coach. And then he'll start, doing the move, and it'll kind of put on focus. Because everyone kids even have different motivations on why they're here. And it's finding their motivation to why they want to be here helps them feel more comfortable being here.
Now, do you find you mentioned the two cases where one girl's one way, the other girl's the other way. Mm-hmm. Do you have a scenario like that with boys, or are boys more predictable, or?
No, they're up and downs. I have a kid, another young man in my class that I'd love to see him in 5 years. When he first came to this gym, all the kids were playing on the mats, and I was like, hey, if you want to go in there and play, you can. And I've never been looked so cold in my eyes and had words utterly shuddered to me than I don't play.
How old was he?
He was 13. He's 13. And
whoa.
And he does not play. If you jump on the mats and you watch this kid roll, he's been training over 5 years now, and he's about the business. So he's another kid there. Huh. I don't have to push him or pull him. I just have to guide him in the direction, because he is going to go.
Yeah, so contain him. It sounds like.
Exactly. I just have to, keep keep him on direction. Because I mean, he's phenomenal. Like I said, he just won his first belt at Nagas last week. So again, some need to be pulled, some need to be pushed, and some just need to be followed.
Now, how much of that, when you see differences like that, how much of that would you say is nature versus nurture? So the actual design, their wiring versus what their home environment's like.
That's a great question, because I believe both of them are present. I mean, both of them are present. I think it has to be.
Can you tell the difference?
You can tell a difference.
How do you tell?
So when it's nature versus nurture, so I'll say, so the young man I was speaking of earlier, it's both for him. His dad shows up here every single day. He's here on time. Dad sits, he watches. His dad takes him to tournaments. He takes him to practice. He does everything. He takes his son every single place.
Are his parents married still?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
No. So that was and again, not to put people's business out, but that was part of their agreement too. The mom has to bring the son to jiu-jitsu. Like, she has to.
That was in the divorce?
That was in their decree.
Damn.
She has to bring him to jiu-jitsu when it's her days. And that's how you know it's nurture. But when he gets on the mats, his dad doesn't say anything. He's not. I love his dad because he's not one of those sideline coaches.
Right.
He's not sitting there. Hey,
move your arm, do this,
do that. He's there. He watches his son. His son gets on the mats, and then his son pushes forward.
Interesting.
Yes, and then his son will do the extra rounds. His son he'll fight you, with no questions asked. And you're 6. How tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah.
Used to be 6'4". Used to be 6'4". I shrunk down a little bit.
And then
it's gravity.
And that's how I know. And then you have the kids in class who their parents are, and then they're trying to have fun and they're playing. That's when you know it's more nurture. Then you have kids who, I have a family, those kids ride their bikes up here by themselves. Their parents aren't here to bring them. They ride them.
It's on them.
That's nature for them.
Yeah.
They want to do this. But again, I'm sure it's something in their home environment too that has put them on that path. So I believe it takes a little bit of both to get to the
But you
goal.
can see which I mean, some that's like I agree with. I think it's always going to be some sort of a threading of both. But sometimes there's a lot more thread of one than the other. The other one has a little bit, but
of course, there's always going to be a dominant. So with the young man, his is probably. I have to say his is truly 50-50 because his dad is here on point every day and he gets on the mats, they do their thing. Now, the young lady in our class, Alex, hers nurture. Her family is one of the most nurturing, caring, supportive people you'll find. And that's where the thread is thicker on that end. She wants to do jiu-jitsu and her family 100% supports her behind it to the fact
big.
They're 3 generations training here. The grandfather, the mom, and the daughter, just because the daughter wants to do it.
Have you run into situations where the kid wants to do it, but the family's not supportive?
That happens, and you do get in those situations, and it is very unfortunate. I have a story about it. I had a young, talented kid who just started here when we first opened. And I mean, this kid was a sponge. I mean, he was picking it up. I mean, everything. It was just we asked the kids to write down their goals. His goal was, I want to be more focused. That was the goal for a kid to put that on paper.
To put that on paper. Yeah,
yes.
Really.
And
most adults can't do that.
No, dude. And his parents just had a heavy work schedule. They traveled a lot, and he just couldn't keep up with it. So
that's too bad.
And then that was, unfortunately. So, those things do happen where you have those moments where the kid really wants to be here, but due to family...
circumstances.
Yeah, they just can't. And it's hard.
And when jiu-jitsu came on the scene, it just blew everybody.
Because it worked. It was unlike anything else we all saw. Because the thing is...
And you could legally do it.
Yes.
You can't carry a knife in California. Anything longer than this, illegal.
But I also think the reason why jiu-jitsu is blown up so much is because it's truly universal. Like anyone can do jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Know? Like there's not a, I mean, everyone has a stigma of martial arts, but when you really look at a jiu-jitsu class and there are all sizes, genders,
shapes, stuff,
2 genders, but yeah. Those are, but it's all different. You have, I mean, Steve, Steve, Mike. I mean, those people are in training. Professor Young, I mean, he's been training. I mean, he's been a black belt longer than I've even practiced jiu-jitsu.
Right. Really.
He's been a black belt since longer than I've practiced jiu-jitsu. And to see the longevity in it too, you're not seeing boxers. Still boxing
at 55. Maybe Tyson. He's the only one.
Tyson's that guy there. It's because he used to eat children when he was younger. So he was the first person. No, I can't say that. But Tyson's a whole different beast. But yes.
But he's also way more the exception. That's not the norm.
No. Not in his field. But in jiu-jitsu, I mean, you see it all the time. You go to schools, and there are people. And that's what I love about it is size, age. Those aren't factors.
What do you talk? So we talk about kids a lot, and when you go from kids, let's say, to adults, and you have different flavors of adults.
Yeah.
You have the 20 to 29-year-olds, you have the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds, and beyond. And so when you're teaching someone from scratch, let's say in their 20s, versus, I mean, how differently do you teach them versus, say, a kid?
Well, for the person in their 20s, I mean, unfortunately, they're still that testosterone's kicking in, and they're
still a kid.
Yeah, they're still
the boys.
Yes.
All right, girls.
Yes. Girls, you can as you know, girls mature faster than boys, so I do see a difference.
I will say, girls are smarter than boys, but sometimes they make really dumb decisions.
Yes, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But it's so again, it's more so finding out the individual's needs, you know, because I have teenagers who come here who will never compete. That's not their goal. That's not what they want.
And can you tell that early on?
Yes.
Or do they tell you? You can tell?
I ask.
Yeah.
When I have someone sign up here, the first thing I ask them is what their goals are. Because
Okay.
my goals are to help them achieve their goals. If their goal is not to compete, then I'm not sitting here pushing them to competition classes. I'm not sitting there, I'm not pushing them in that direction. If they're here because they want to learn self-defense, if they're here because they just want to stay in shape, it's finding out those goals. And then
all legitimate reasons too.
Absolutely, especially for the kids. Some kids are here because they want more confidence. Some kids are here because they have a lot of energy. Some kids are here, they want to make friends. It's understanding the needs.
When you talk about kids, how many kids come here because they want to come here or their parents want them to come here?
Ooh, so that's a tricky question too. So I would say 60% of the kids that come through here, honestly, is because their parents. And
that high?
I would believe so.
That's kids, though.
Kids.
Okay.
Kids. But once the kids get in here, it's the kids are the reason why they still come. Because the parents are just finding something for kids to do. I mean, you got a 9-year-old running around. You wanna. I mean, as we should be fueling what their passions are. So as a parent, you're putting feelers out. You put them in baseball for a year. You put them in basketball for a year. And I get a lot of that. Kids come in and they're like, we tried this, we tried that. So the parents are trying to get them something. And then again, where I think I try to set myself apart is I ask the kid what they're trying to do. What are they trying to get out of this? If they're trying to, make friends, then that's what they're trying to do. I'm still going to teach them. They're still going to learn, but I know I have a different approach. And then at that point, I see the tide swing. Those same kids run into the building. Those
That's
kids
cool.
leaving the parents at the door. So it's because the kids don't know. Kids don't know what they like. They're at this stage where it's figuring out. And I believe, as parents, we should be strongly guiding them in directions. As I told my oldest kids, they had to do jiu-jitsu, which I may not be the best parent, but then I told them they had to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Because you did jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. Now, there was a point in their life when they got a certain age, I was like, I will not make you continue to do jiu-jitsu if that's not what you want to do. But
you're going to do something.
But you're going to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of parents are. They just want their kids to do something. And when the parents start to see what jiu-jitsu offers, what martial arts offers as a whole, because like I said, there's many different styles out there than jiu-jitsu, and I'll never say jiu-jitsu is, because the different strokes for different folks. So just finding something for kids to do, and once they get into it, so initially it's the parents, and then if you can get the kids interested, get them excited, then the kids take over, and then that's what they want to do. And that's where I truly find, and I find that switch happening a lot. So parents bring them in.
How many times do you think it takes for that light bulb or switch to happen?
It could be one day, it could be 1 year.
Okay.
I've seen that.
That's a big spread
for
a kid.
Well, if you can get them to last a year,
Yeah.
So but I've seen it, and I see that more with adults, the year side of it. Kids, the kids will be here as long as the parents make them, or as long as the kids want to be here.
Okay.
As long as they want to be here, they'll continue to be here. So with kids, I've had kids first day, and I've had kids a couple months into it. Because as you know with jiu-jitsu, when you first start it, you always feel like the nail. You're getting hammered a whole lot, and then then one day you do something, and then it's like that light bulb goes off.
Right.
For kids, that does happen a lot faster because
Interesting.
Kids are sponges. So for kids, it's a short window. They'll either like it or they're not, and I find that to happen. Kids are pretty decisive.
Okay.
When it really gets down to their time.
So in the beginning, at that age, it's going to be parents bringing them in 60% of the time.
Yeah.
And then after a day, a month, whatever,
Month tops.
let's say, then it's either the kid's going to really,
Yes.
he's going to like it, he or she's going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the attrition rate, would you say?
Well, that again depends. Again, that's a truly I believe on a coach. You know, like I said, if we're not finding a way to reach every single kid, because everyone can be taught, everyone has a way of learning, and everyone has a way of being motivated. Can
everyone be reached?
So I am a cup half full guy, so I have to say yes. Everyone can be reached. Can you reach everyone? Probably not.
Okay.
So I believe that everyone can be reached. Are you that person? You may not be that person. And that's also the other thing that I tell a lot of students too. When you're going to schools, don't be afraid to try out schools. You know, every school is going to have their own philosophy, their own mentalities, their own atmosphere. You know, find the one that's best for you, that's going to fit to your needs. And then I give that advice to anyone who walks into our doors. You know, find what fits for you. You can try us out. There's other gyms on the island. You can try them out to see which one fits you. And then once you can find that, but that's again, coaching. You got to be malleable to your students. You know?
So, and then moving up to adults, once we flip over to the adult phase, let's say, then it's them bringing themselves in.
Oh yeah, the adults walk in here. I mean, at the adults part, it's always 100% almost, because they're adults at this point, unless there's some factor that's bringing them in. You know,
what would be one of those factors?
So that's a good one. I have students in here who want to compete. I have students who want to learn self-defense because something has happened in their lives, or they want to feel a certain type of way, or something has made them feel a certain type of way. Then I have guys who seen UFC and they're like, man, I really want to try this.
Do that,
you know? I don't want to put it that way. A pure curiosity of the sport. So I have a gentleman who just joined. His name was Jordan, and he said the same thing. He was like, man, you know, I just been wanting to join. I've been passing by these schools. You know, he's good. You know, good job, well-mannered guy. He's not out here bare knuckle boxing and none of that. He just has a curiosity that has turned into, you know, something more. You know,
a desire to do it.
Desire, yes. And that's the thing I tell everybody. The hardest part about jiu-jitsu is stepping on the mats. You know, if you can step on the mats, the first time, if you can step on the mats, then it gets in theory easier from there.
Little do they know.
Yes, little do they know. There's a process, but with adults, they come in and either they know what they want or they're curious. The curious ones, but I get a lot of people come in and they have.
You mentioned self-defense too, and so out of the self-defense, the group that is the self-defense centric ones, is that mostly younger? Is there a group you can kind of lump them into, whether it's age group, gender group, vocation?
So females always are.
Self-defense.
I have some females who come in here with a competitive attitude. I have some females who come in here with more of a self-defense mindset.
Is there an age discrepancy there? Yeah.
So statistically, young girls, unfortunately they're oblivious to the dangers of the world. So they're here pure out of, you know, either just a wanting to learn. Parents brought them in because they want them to be able to defend themselves. But
that would qualify like out of fear.
Yes. So a lot of that comes from, I think the age group on that, 15 to about 35.
Wow.
You know, because those are women who are more in the public. They have a job, they have a social life, they're either in school. They're more statistically to be put in those situations because they are in those type of things. Then you get like the 35 and up who just want to stay in shape. You know, they're just trying to stay in shape. They've done they've done some type of sport in the past, and they want something a little bit more physical than an aerobic workout, you know. So that's kind of their thing. But I find under that, I have so many more girls who are going to be our next competitors. You know, they're coming in with that competitive mindset. There's 3 girls in the class that are that's their goals.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Yes, those are the other one, and it's funny. There's the 2 that they're 100% goal driven in competition, and those are the ones who, you know, you can push them. You push them to the next level. Then the other one I was telling you about was the one who just kind of, you know, as long as it's not presented in a way that's stressful, will excel. You know, when you make it seem more of a game. When I'm like, all right, sparring's more of a game, she will do fantastic. Now, when the other ones, when I'm like, sparring is more like, hey, all right, you're 2 points down.
Yeah, a death match.
Yeah. Then it gets kicked in.
So that's really that third scenario, the one you have to make it a game. That's subtle.
It is.
I mean, it's a subtle way of coaching, I guess.
Absolutely, and I'm still learning. Like I said, these are things that I've been kind of working on over my time of coaching, understanding that different kids are going to be, there's different ways for them, and if you try to, just like jiu-jitsu, there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many different ways to teach. And if you just keep pushing one way to one kid, you're going to lose them. And then we all know in the long run, that's the worst thing that can happen. If a kid leaves a martial arts school, I mean, you know, I'm sorry, I've been so ingrained. I've been doing martial arts since I was 5. Yeah. You know, but with that, it's, you know, I try to focus more on the individual. So yeah.
That makes sense.
So the question is...
different approaches to that age group.
Okay. So that's where it's a 50-50 on the coach and the student. You know, as a student, don't be afraid. Like the thing I love about most jiu-jitsu schools is it's not an ego-driven place, you know, for the most part. Yes, we're competing. Yes, we're trying to get the better of each other. And that's where the problem lies, is ego and pride. So as a student...
What does that do?
That hinders you, you know, because you're focused on...
Hinders you as a coach or hinders you
as a student?
As a student, okay.
Because so as they say, comparison is the thief of joy. So I see a lot of new students come in here and they'll start comparing themselves to other students.
Everyone does that.
Everyone, I know, and it's the hardest thing to do in life, because we all do it.
Yeah. It's not just jiu-jitsu, it's everything.
But I always try to tell them, you know, it's whatever their profession is. I always like to put it back on them. So how long have you been doing what you were doing? You know, 10 years. Okay. How was it your first day of doing this? You know, and then I'll look at where you're at. And that's jiu-jitsu. But I had a better point than that.
You like the schools?
Yes. Because it's not an ego-driven thing. So when you have students who come in, and so that's the thing. As a student, talk to your coaches. Let them know, hey, this happened, you know, so or this feels this type of way. Communication. And then as a coach, understand, don't put your, 50-plus-year-old student with your 23-year-old competitor, who's a blue belt and likes doing no-gi competitions, no-gi super fights. You got to
different animal.
Exactly. Or my first day, bodybuilding 23-year-old with my 1-year white belt female.
Yeah.
So those are things so that's where so as a student, understand your limitations. Don't come in here with, hey, not saying something hurts, or not saying something this, or coming here with the intention of, I'm gonna smash. You know what I mean? And I think once that, as a coach and a student, come together, that's when things can progress at a different level. I hope that answered the question. I think I got off on a tangent.
No, that makes sense. But you have so many individuals, and each individual has a different way of being communicated to,
Of course.
and is going to have a different path, whether it's in jiu-jitsu or in jiu-jitsu, within jiu-jitsu, a different path.
Yes. So I essentially, we have different paths, but we're all still in the same direction. So with that, I'm not saying that I won't, have, one of my older students roll with one of my younger students. But there's going to be parameters, I'm going to let them know, hey guys, this isn't a death match, talk to them, let them know. One of the greatest things, especially they do at ACS, they remind the students that the most important person is your training partner. Keeping those things fresh in your students' minds, I think really helps them to understand, not every match needs to be a death match.
Jiu-jitsu has just exploded. And it's everywhere.
Yes, because it's no longer, because again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, there's so many different types. It's not just a thing for jocks. That was everyone's whole thing with kickboxing or boxing. Oh, you got to be big, you got to be strong,
Ex-football player.
Yeah. You watch some of these guys in jiu-jitsu, you're like, this dude always got his lunch money taken. But that same guy,
very ordinary, nondescript.
And that's the thing I think has really made it so popular, is because everyone could see themselves doing this. As you know, with stick fighting, that's why I was asking. What it feels like the next day after a sparring session in stick fighting.
Oh, if you have a good training partner, you are like, I'm done for the week.
Yeah,
if not more.
Yes. And that's just what I love about jiu-jitsu. As long as you're doing it right, as long as you're taking care of your injuries, as long as you're communicating with your coaches and your partners, longevity is huge. It's about consistency. And that's the problem. It's another quote that I heard. What does it say? What was it? Hard men make good times.
Right.
Good men make soft time. Soft men.
Soft men make bad times.
Yes.
And then you have that cycle.
And you have that cycle. It's hard times make good men. Good men make good times. Good times make bad men. Yeah,
or soft men soft men make bad times.
And so that's an issue. That is an issue with society today. But I'm big on quotes, and this is my all-time favorite quote. And I tell this to all my students, even my children. I'd rather you be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Oh, good one.
I don't teach my kids, and this was the same thing.
You ever see the movie 300?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
I was
Once that thing kicks in again. Yeah. So they come across the Athenians say, we're here to help you too. And the Spartans say, you, what do you do? Oh, I'm a carpenter. You, oh yeah, I'm a shipbuilder. And you, yeah, I make shoes.
Potter.
Yeah, I'm a potter.
I'm a potter. Yeah.
And he goes,
oh.
He's right. Yeah, we're going to need that.
Yeah. No, that's true.
You remember that scene?
Yes, that's my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Because that is true. It's like and that's the thing with watering it down with jiu-jitsu or with any sports. And that tends to happen. That's why I like the competitiveness of jiu-jitsu.
I do too. My concern is that they start putting in all these rules.
Yeah.
And some of the rules, I'm like, okay, but now you're in borderline stuff. You're borderline taking away the effectiveness of what we were doing, which is where we do MMA 90% of the time. And what's interesting is that part of the reason I think we used to do gi all the time. Now it's all no gi because everyone there does MMA.
It's a progression of everything,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's been happening with jiu-jitsu. It's starting to evolve again to people are not so much watering down the sports, but they're changing from gi to now a lot more people are doing no gi.
Right.
And
right.
that's been the thing I've noticed here. Me and my partner Mike and our other partner Jessica, we're all gi players, but you go to our no gi class and it's twice the size of our gi classes. And
why do you think that is?
Man, I think I don't know. I don't want to get too wild, but a lot of people are stepping away from tradition nowadays. You find it so
That's
hard, and this is in life. People are stepping away from things that were traditionally done, And there's nothing wrong, and I'm not saying that, no-gi is not traditional. I love no-gi people, believe me. I'm not saying
That's all we did today, by the way, just
I
saying.
compete in no-gi, and I train and teach no-gi. But that's just kind of the thing. Like people are getting away from tradition. Like
Is it tradition, though, or is it you're not wearing a coat all the time?
But think about it. I mean, yes, and everyone says that. Oh, well, they're not wearing a coat. Nobody.
Which I disagree with that logic, by the way, because I have an answer to that.
What's your answer? Because
my answer is I'm a contractor, and I'm on a job site. I have to wear PPE. It's called PPE.
Yeah.
And so that's a gi.
That's a gi. I wear a business suit to work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in sales. I wear a business suit to work. Yes. If I run across a person who runs up to me butt naked in the streets, I'm not gonna fight that person.
Like, whoa.
And I feel
that's a great one.
But everyone's gonna be wearing some type of clothes, some type of cloth. But that's nor here nor there. I think it's just mainstream media and the way it's been popularized. 10th Planet came out for a while, and they were popular for a moment on the scene. Then a lot of people started doing these MMA. Became popular, and then now nobody is popular, and no one wears a gi in that.
Right.
So then they had to evolve into what it was with no-gi. So people started doing that, and for the person who first starts jiu-jitsu, honestly, gi can be overwhelming. You're wearing a coat that, if most, like you said, unless you or myself who aren't used to wearing coats, you're putting on a coat. Then you got some guy who's 30 pounds lighter than you, pulling and tugging you, and you can't get away from them, and you're not understanding why everyone's smothering you with their gi. I just think it's daunting for a lot of people.
Okay.
And so they gravitate, but they still love the sport. Everyone wants to, we used to wrestle every single day as kids, play around, and so people love that, and you're still getting a workout, So I think a lot of people, I think that's kind of what kind of gets into it. A lot of people are kind of getting away from tradition, but UFC has become so popular, and then it is daunting. There's a curve putting on a gi versus going no gi. I think for me, it's easier to start off in a no gi class than it is to start off in a gi class. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that's kind of going into a lot of today. People are kind of taking the path of least resistance.
I have a lot more questions, but let's stop there. That's a good one to end on.
I hope I did good. I don't know. I was trying not to be nervous.
You never know.
I was trying to be natural. I was trying to be honest.
Well, I thought it felt pretty natural.
Yeah,
I mean, everything, it's like having two guys just sitting around having, a cup of coffee.
I always gotta remember, I gotta be careful. Because some of the things